This is the true crime part of my live recording. For the whole live, see my previous live playlist.
And the crime for today, the main crime, we will see. Maybe it will be like the last time, and I suddenly add in an extra one or something. We'll see. But yeah, today the main crime is the torture and murder of Magnus Natschki. This is a case that in Sweden it led to a lot of discussions about where your free will starts or ends. Hello, Daniel. And how long you can go and say that you acted because someone else told you to act in a certain way. And you will understand why that is a discussion to be had around this case. Ja, jag är svensk. Trevligt att se dig. But let's start from the beginning. The murder of Magnus Natschki happened in December of 2017. So almost 9 years ago. And it started on the morning when Magnus and his friend Felix was at home. And Magnus at the time was 36 years old, and Felix was 23. Hej Sockerbostad, jag är svensk. Men jag gör det här på engelska för mina engelska tittare. And Felix, he was a theater student that lived with Magnus since a few years while back. Hey Linnea. And this morning he was supposed to go to school, but unfortunately he couldn't. He didn't get up in time. He couldn't wake when his alarm clock went off, so he overslept. So in a normal day, Felix wouldn't have been at home, but this day he was. And Magnus is at home and getting ready to start his day, and they hear knocking on the door. And when Magnus goes and opened outside, he sees 3 men. One that's 19, another one that's around 19, and then a little bit older guy that is 33. And these men, they push their way into the apartment and start hitting Magnus more or less right away. They start screaming at him, and they force him to hand over his bank cards, his account numbers for his bank, and something that's in Sweden is called a mobile bank ID. That's a kind of digital ID thing that you can have to log in on your bank account and stuff like that. Tjena allihopa. Det är skitbra med mig. Det är fredag kväll för fan. Och jag kör lite true crime och grejer här nu. Som sagt på engelska, men skriv på svenska om ni vill. Ni vet att jag kan läsa det. And the reasoning these 3 men had to why they went to Magnus and why they started to hit him and why they wanted money is that they claimed that a female friend of theirs that also known Magnus had told them that Magnus had raped her children, 2 of her daughters. And there was no merit to this at all, no evidence at all. And Magnus was also gay, so he had no interest in any kind of girl or female at all. And I don't understand the logic in this man, but they also said that because he was gay, he was a pedophile. And that's why he had molested these girls. So they were there to have some kind of revenge, to revenge these girls, and the money they wanted to take from him was supposed to be for the girls, some kind of retribution for this that they claimed that he had done. When the three men realized that Felix was also in the apartment, they started to also threaten and beat Felix. So they put both of these guys, both Felix and Magnus, at chairs in the kitchen, and they start screaming at them both, hitting them, and after a few hours, they force both Magnus and Felix into a car, and they drive this car from Gothenburg, where Magnus and Felix lived, to a smaller town in Sweden outside, a small town in Sweden called Uddevalla. And there they had a kind of a safe house out in the forest. They bring Magnus and Felix into this house, where they continue to torture, especially Magnus, in different ways. But they force Felix to watch, and they continuously tell Felix that if he tries to run away, if he tries to say something, do something, try to save Magnus in any kind of way, they will start torturing him as well. And if they can't get Felix to behave out of the fear of his own life, he should also know that they know where Felix's family lives, and they will also find Felix's dad, for example, and try to kill him. So they're threatening Felix over and over again, while they also show how violent they are towards Magnus. And after a few hours in that house, they tell Felix that he has to start to also torture Magnus and hit Magnus. And Felix, of course, doesn't want to do this. Magnus is his friend and roommate, but they say that if he does not compute with this, if he doesn't do what they tell him to do, they will search for Felix's dad and harm him instead. So Felix start with Sockerbostad, as said, they would kill. They want to. They say to Felix that they will kill his parents, and Felix believes them in all of this. He feels like he has no choice, because they, like I said, they again and again show just how far they are ready to go, and they start to up the violence more and more. And when we now have been around 12 hours of this violence against Magnus, one of the 19-year-olds tells Magnus and Felix to get into a car. But this time, Magnus is very badly hurt already, and he can't try to do any kind of resistance. And Felix is so afraid, so he just follow along. He thinks that if he tried to do anything against this guy, it will just be even worse for himself. They will kill him, they will kill Magnus, and maybe they will also kill his dad. And this 19-year-old, he takes Magnus and Felix even further out in a forest. And there he forced them out of the car. He takes out his mobile phone and starts to record a movie. And he tells Felix over and over again, you will have to kill Magnus. You have to kill Magnus. And he gives Magnus, he gives Felix an axe, and says to Felix, use this on Magnus. It's time for Magnus to die for the crimes he has committed, and you need to do it. If you don't do it, I will do it, and then I will kill you, and then I will kill your father. And like I said, all this is recorded on this guy's cell phone. And after a while, Felix says that he felt that he had no way out. He tried to argue and tried to say that he didn't want to do it, and he felt like he had no way out. So he looked at Magnus and says to Magnus, can you please take your hands down? Because Magnus is standing on his knees and holding his hands over his face, and is just crying. And Felix says, please can you take your hands down, because he wants to be able to hit Magnus in the head with the axe to kill him instantly, so it won't be as much pain for Magnus. And Magnus does as Felix says, and they look each other in the eyes, and Felix says to Magnus, I am so sorry. And Magnus just answers, this is your fault. This is not your fault. And then Felix takes the axe and chops Magnus in the head and in the neck about 4 times. And Magnus dies from the injuries. After Magnus is dead, this 19-year-old takes the axe from Felix. They leave Magnus' body where it is in the forest, and he forces Felix to join him back to the safe house. And they take the car and they drive to Malmö, and from Malmö to Copenhagen, and then from Copenhagen into Germany. And now it's the day after the killing, so now it's I think 7th of December. And when they're getting closer to a red light, they are now in Germany, in a little bit of a bigger town. The car has to slow down a little bit, but when they're closing into this red light, and Felix sees his chance, so he opened the door, and while the car is still running, he's thrown himself out of the car. And he gets injured, but because of the way he has thrown himself out of the car, these 3 men that was part of this killing and kidnapping of Magnus, they just, pushed the gas pedal to the ground and just run away in full panic. The ambulance get there, they take Felix into the hospital, and when he's at the hospital, he tells the doctor that he need to talk to the police because he has something to confess. So the doctor calls the police, the German police gets over there, and when the police come there, and they start to ask what he wanted to tell them and why he has done it, why did he throw himself out of a car, he tells the police that in Sweden he was kidnapped, he was forced to participate in the murder of his friend, and now he managed to escape, and he wants to tell the police the whole story. So he has to stay in Germany for a while due to the injuries, but then they release him to Sweden. And the police immediately, understand what this is all about, but they can't find the body of Magnus because Felix didn't know the place that the house was, this safe house was. He didn't really know where the forest was. It was dark when they were there, so he can't really tell the police where the body of Magnus is. So it takes almost 2 months before a private person who is out walking in the forest finds the body of Magnus. And because of the injuries and the place, they can quite fast realize that this is Magnus, but also that the story Felix has been telling them seem to be really close to the truth. And they quite fast also find the 3 other men. And when they take them into custody, this is also the German police that find them first, they find the movie on the cell phone of the murder. So it's quite a heavy load of evidence against the man that was involved in this. But when this goes to trial in September of 2018, the 3 men that attacked Magnus first, they broke into his apartment. They, of course, claim they are innocent. They had nothing to do with anything. Even the 19-year-old that filmed everything says that he didn't have anything to do with it. And Felix says that he did kill Magnus, but that he did it because he feared so much for his own life and the life of his family. And in the first trial, they gave 10 years for murder for Felix. The 19-year-old who recorded everything and in the end was the one who forced Felix to commit the murder, he get 12 years for murder, for kidnapping, and for robbery. The other 19-year-old that was in the apartment in the beginning, He get 2 years and 10 months for robbery and for kidnapping. And then the 33-year-old, he gets 6 years for, I think the English term is battery, and for kidnapping and for robbery. There also a fourth man, a 42-year-old, but he, in the first instance, they said they couldn't tie him to the actual crime of the murder of Magnus, but they could find that he had committed narcotic charges. Because that safe house, it was his house. He owned the house, and when they found the house, the police found the house, they also found drugs in the house that belonged to this 42-year-old. But it gives a new trial in a higher court, and this new court, they think that this was a bit too lenient of punishments, so they gave harder punishments for everyone, including the 42-year-old. The 19-year-old got the lesser sentence because of his young age, and Felix got 14 years in prison for murder. But in the end, the court still said that they did take into consideration the threats and the violence against both Felix and Magnus, and how afraid he was, and the fact that he also fled from the men when he found the opportunity to do so. And he helped the police, he turned himself into the police, and so on. But to this day, Felix still believes that he should maybe have gotten a lesser sentence, or even no sentence at all, because of how afraid he was in the situation. And that is also part of why this case have sparked so much debate in Sweden, because a lot of people think that it doesn't matter how afraid you were. This is still on you that you killed someone. And then there's others that think that, of course, if you feel as threatened as he did, you will probably do more or less whatever to save yourself and save your family. And I would argue that the recordings also shows that Magnus felt like the others, like those who defends Felix, from his own words, when he says that, this is not on you, this is not your fault, Så jag vet att det inte är så många som tittar, men jag vet också att hälften av de som tittar just nu är personer som jag känner, de är ifrån Storbritannien och USA. Därför kommer jag fortsätta prata mest engelska. Så ja. Well, Felix, I think will have his possible release next year, if nothing change. Because normally in Sweden you don't sit the full sentence. You get, if there's nothing that's special that happens during your time in prison, you will be released early. So he will probably be out maybe by the end of this year, or sometimes next year. And there have been Swedish documentaries about this case where Felix has been interviewed and shared his own thoughts about it all. And he has never changed his story. It has always been that he didn't want to do this. He really loved Magnus. They were very good friends. He is heavily traumatized about this, and he will probably never ever be able to really function normally again after what he did and what he was forced to do and witness during this day. So yeah, that was the murder and the killing of, or the torture and the murder of Magnus Natschki. And for me, this is kind of one of the hardest cases I have ever done when I had my old true crime podcast also, because it's something about the fact that for Felix, that he just accidentally slept in and ended up in this horrible, horrible situation. Thinking about how small things can change your life in this kind of way. It's just crazy. Hey Haley, hey Sarah, or Sarah. So I have personally kind of a hard time to grasp how fast your life can really go downhill that bad. And in some ways it's really, the stuff of nightmares, to in Felix's case, he wakes up when he hear the noise and the commotion in the house, and he open the doors and go out to see what is happening, and is suddenly faced with Magnus being hit by 3 men he had never seen before, that he don't know nothing about, and then get dragged into this. It's just yeah. Thank you, Haley. My crazy Swedish English accent. So yeah, exactly, Cal. It's like the survivor guilt, the guilt of killing one of his best friends, everything, and that guilt. I mean, it can't get better by the fact that the police, for example, that did the investigation, they go out and in one of the documentaries, they go out and say that we have tried to look at this from different kind of point of views, but we can't understand how someone could be this afraid. Because they think like, for example, they stay on the way to this safe house to buy something to eat, and they can be seen in surveillance cameras when they stop and buy this food, and Magnus is forced to pay for everything. And the police goes like, there were other people around, why didn't Felix do anything? Ha det bra, sockerbostad. See you. Yeah, he's like, why didn't he run away when there were other people around? Why didn't he start to scream? Why didn't he do anything? And I'm like, I get it. Because by that time, when they stop and when the surveillance camera could catch them, Felix has already been beaten himself and forced to witness the torturing of Magnus, where they carved him with a knife, they put boiling water on him, and of course, beat him over and over in different ways, while simultaneously threatening Felix that if you do anything, this will happen to you. If you do anything at all and we can't catch you, this will happen to your father. And Felix and his father is, to this day, really, really close with each other. So I'm like, I get it. For me, I think it's not that different from, a woman that get beaten by her husband for years and years, never dare to flee because she don't feel that she can guarantee the safety of her kids if she flees. It's kind of the same thing. So I don't think it's that crazy or weird that fear can make you do something like this. And in the end, Felix has to live with the fact that he chose his father over Magnus also, because that's what Felix himself also came back to in interviews and stuff like that later, that if it had only been about him being killed or Magnus being killed, he wouldn't have done it. Then he would just have said, okay, kill me, because he was so certain of that they would kill him anyway. And he was like, when they forced him to join him in the car going to Germany, and they said the end goal was going to Amsterdam and party, he was like, as soon as they feel that they don't have any use of him anymore, they will kill him. That was the conviction that the Felix had all this time, and that he had to act in ways to make himself live as long as possible, so that these three men wouldn't find a reason to look for Felix's father and kill him. So like I said, in the end, the choice Felix did was not his life or Magnus' life, it was his father's life or Magnus' life. And I'm not sure that I would do a different kind of choice, actually. Well, in my case, it would probably be more like threatening my kids, of course, but Felix was so young, he didn't have any kids yet. But if he had, I would be sure that they would have also used the kids against him in some way. So yeah. And in the end, no one really knows. This woman who claimed that Magnus had molested her children, it's very, very little known about her, who she was. Just that she was kind of a friend of Magnus. But she's been kept anonymous in the records of this, and the things I know or that I have found out, I can't say for certain if they are true or not, but we have a Swedish website called Flashback, and I would say it's a little bit like maybe 4chan is the most close to what Flashback is. So it's an internet forum with hardly any rules. More or less everything goes on that forum. And the one who created it said he did it with the aim to have a place with total freedom of speech. Because of changes in Swedish laws, he have been forced to put in some rules about what is allowed to be shared and spoken about to comply with Swedish laws. But other than that, you can pretty much write whatever there. And of course, any kind of crime happening in Sweden ends up being discussed at Flashback. And the murder of Magnus Natschki is one of them. And some people there shared that they said that the reason that this woman made up lies about Magnus was that she had previously also been living with Magnus, but they ended up in some kind of disagreement. And because it was Magnus' apartment, he made her leave. So these lies about him molesting her kids would then eventually, maybe, perhaps, been some kind of revenge for him not letting her stay in his apartment. But I don't know that this for sure, but yeah. And a little bit, I would actually want to know more about this woman and her thought about this all, because in some ways she was quite a huge part in why Magnus in the end was killed. And it would have been a little bit interesting to know her feelings about it all, and if she feels any kind of remorse in the way that Felix does, or if she just doesn't care at all about the way her words, what effect they had on his life, on Felix's life, and on Magnus' life. So, and I would say also a little bit that the start of this crime and all of this, oh, he was a pedophile, that's why we did it. That's why I have such a hard time with pedophile hunters. We have two. Oh, sorry. I'm 1 second. I will show you. So I'm making a bigger version of this. So this is just a little trial thing I did earlier today, and now I'm going to make a big version of this. So that's what I'm trying to do. When I can actually see where to put the needle in this black yarn. But yeah, like I was saying, we have two kind of vigilante private persons hunting pedophile groups in Sweden that are big and kind of well known. And one of them is called the Dumpen, and they are, how to say, the nicer ones of these pedo hunters. They are like a Swedish version of how to catch a predator. You know, they go out on the internet, pretends to be kids, arrange meetings with grown-ups, and then mostly almost just men shows up to these meetings, they confront them, they record them, and then they have a website where they put up the movies and screenshots of the conversations that these men have had with what they thought were children. So that's the less harmful one of these two. And then we have another one that is called Pedo Hunters Sweden. And Pedo Hunters Sweden, they have gone out and said that they are directly inspired by Dumpen, but they think that Dumpen is a bit too nice. So what Pedo Hunters Sweden do is they do more or less the same thing in the beginning. They go out on forums and like Roblox and etc., pretend to be children, talks to grown-ups, arrange meetings, and then goes to these meetings to confront these predators. But where the difference comes in is, first of all, they don't just record these meetings and then publish the meetings. They also jumps these men, start hitting them, and records how they are beating them up. In Pedo Hunter Sweden, they have some kind of point system. So when you record and if you are involved in some kind of beatings, you get points, and from these points you can get like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. Yeah, it's wild. But the second part where they differ a lot from Dumpen is that Pedo Hunter Sweden don't really care about the truth. So there are, just last year, I think there was like 5 cases where they had actually beaten up people that they couldn't tie to actually be predators in any kind of ways. One guy who got really, really badly beaten, he just happened to share the name to someone's nickname on WhatsApp, and that was enough for them, for this hunter group to go to his apartment, break in, and start beating him. In another case, there's a guy that says that he doesn't want to meet with a girl that's 14 and he's 19, and he says over and over again, I don't want to meet, I don't want anyone to think that something could happen between us, you are too young, I'm not interested, again and again and again. And in this chat convo, she's like saying, but I made my mother go away for the night, now I'm afraid because you will force me to be home alone, and I'm so scared, and can you just come and like watch a movie or something? And he says, after a lot of to and fro in this, he says, okay, but again, like, but I will only stay for a movie, I will not stay the night, nothing is going to happen, we will just watch a movie and then I will leave. But still, when he shows up, they beat him and said that he's a pedophile and a predator and stuff like that, even though he again and again and again said, you are too young, I am not interested, I do not want to have any kind of relationship with you. So yeah, they are the like more crazy ones. And then we have kind of lone wolf, or I don't know what to call them really, that are inspired by both Dumpen and by Peter Hunters Sweden, but goes even further. And the guys that murdered Magnus was that kind of or what to say, they were not part of Peter Hunter Sweden or of Dumpen or anything like that, but they were inspired by them and by this kill your local pedophile kind of talking. So they, in their mind, it was kind of a fair game to act the way they did, because they could just fall back on, well, Magnus was a pedophile. He was a pedophile, so it's okay to beat him and torture him and kill him. And we have had another case in north of Sweden just a couple of years ago in Boden, where a guy gets murdered, and part of why he dies is because the ambulance couldn't reach him in time, because he was living so far out in like the northern of Sweden. But he got killed by a mother and her sons, because they had just made up this story about this guy being a pedophile. They had no kind of evidence for it, nothing. They had just heard somewhere, somehow, something that they decided meant that he was a pedophile. And because of that, he deserved to be punished and killed. So they stabbed him with a knife, and like I said, he bled out and died because the ambulance was too far away. Or not even the ambulance, the police. And because they had stabbed him, the police need to go there first to be able to secure the place before the ambulance can go in. And because the perpetrator was still there, the ambulance couldn't reach him, and the police was too far away to get there in time to secure the place for the ambulance to reach him. It was a wild story. And another one, quite recently, there was a taxi driver found hanged in a tree outside of Uppsala, out in like field, just like middle of field, hanging in a tree, killed. And in that case, there was also pretty young people involved. They were like between, I think, 19 and 25 or something like that. And there, this taxi driver, I think, was like 26, 27. He was also quite young. And it was, I think, three guys and 2 girls involved in this. And one of these girls was 16 or 17. And she claimed that this taxi driver had raped her or tried to rape her once when she was in his taxi. And one of the guys involved was her brother, and then her friend and her brother's friend, and her female friend's boyfriend. So they find this taxi driver, force him out in this field, and strangle him to death and hang him from this tree to make it look like a suicide. And in the end, in this story, no one actually gets sentenced for this, because the Swedish court decides that, how to say, they don't feel that it's proven that anyone in this gang actually killed the taxi driver. So I think they got like 2 or 3 months sentences for griftefridsbrott in Swedish. I think it's like tampering with a body in English. But the court says that it's not proven that this poor taxi driver was killed, or that he wasn't already dead when they put him up in that tree. And it even goes as long as to say that it's not even fully proven that this guy was even there. And that's really, really wild, because at the same time, the police could match the rope in which the man had been hanged with a rope that was in one of the guy's car. And they could also match that rope to a receipt and to security cameras in a store where this guy and one of the girls can be seen buying that rope. And still the court says that it's not proven that they had anything to do with this guy's death. But their story was still more or less, he was a child molester, he was a pedophile, he was a rapist. We just did this to protect others. And they also talk about Dumpen and the Peter Hunters and how they just had to protect children and girls out there. And that's just like a few of them. I think there's more, or I know there's more cases when the argument for really, really heavy beatings or even murder is they were pedophile, and look at Dumpen or look at Peter Hunters. A lot of people think this what we have done is okay. We think what we have done is okay. They didn't deserve to live anymore. And in the case of Magnus, but also like the taxi driver and other cases, there weren't even evidence in the end of any wrongdoings from the ones that getting killed. So yeah. In Sweden, it's a very, very controversial opinion actually to have, the one I have, that I don't like this kind of pedo hunter groups. I don't like pedophiles either, of course, but I don't like this taking the law in your own hands kind of thingy, because it doesn't end up well.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for weekly craft and crime content.